Well, welcome, folks. It's Gale Force Wins, and we are going to be at the Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador Conference and Trade Show. It's happening March 11th to the 13th, 2025. It's coming up really soon, but I'm going to tell you something I'm excited about. I am here with the chair of the board of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, and today we're going to talk very briefly with her about the conference. At the conference, we're going to dig deeper into her journey. But for today, Deborah, could you introduce yourself and we'll have a little conversation to help pre-promote this conference.
Well, I'm Deborah Bourden, and I am chair of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador. In my other life, I am the operator and owner of the Anchor Inn Hotel and Properties in Twillingate.
Say that name again.
The Anchor Inn Hotel. Anchor Inn Hotel and Properties in Twillingate.
Well, I can tell you this, before we hit record, we were chatting, and the first time I met you, as I said, was in 1999. I had taken over a role in the newspaper business. Some people watching may not even remember the newspaper business, but I am fascinated with Deborah's journey through entrepreneurship. As I said, we'll dig into that a little more at the conference, but I think, you know, from my perspective, tourism in Newfoundland and Labrador is on a growth trajectory. Your business, and we'll touch on that in a second, you know, you have 45 employees or whatever it is, but it's amazing that you've taken on this extra role. Tell us a little bit about why. What's your why for doing this?
That's a really good question, Jerry. Like, you know, as I look back at my journey and as I got closer and closer to making the decision to become a tourism operator, I did that because I really believed in the industry. And when you really believe in something, you really want something to be successful. You really want to help wherever you can. And when you really want to help wherever you can, you'll find lots of places to help because there's lots of need. Like I've, you know, what I find most fascinating about life is there's never a shortage of things that you can be doing to help. So whether it's a local committee, so I started out, you know, in Twillingate Island Tourism Association, then our Venture Central, DMO, and then I found myself being nominated for the board of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador. Joined that board almost 9 years ago now, and then worked my way up, you know, from a board director, you know, to officer's position, to vice chair, to chair. And it has been one of the greatest learning experiences of my life. The ability to meet operators, to talk to people in the industry, to see our industry grow and survive, you know, what was probably one of the most devastating times of our industry. COVID-19 definitely did us no favors. And but then to see how the industry has come through that and continues to build and grow and thrive has been something that excites me. And so I feel privileged and honored that I get the opportunity to be a part of that. So it's exciting. Every day is interesting.
Well, you know, it's very exciting for me, as you know, in the business I'm in now, Gale Force Winds, we've traveled around the world. We've done a whole bunch of tourism stuff in pretty interesting places, but home is where the heart is. And the fact that we're being given this opportunity to sit with someone like yourself with deep roots in the tourism industry is an incredible privilege. And I mean that sincerely. Our hope is that, you know, this conference and what we do, which is a little bit different, is brings people's thought leadership. And that's not just a, you know, colloquial term. That is a really important. You get at the conference, we want to take the thinking online after. So tell us a little bit about why this conference is important.
I always say to all of our tourism operators, whenever you get the opportunity to gather together like-minded people doing some of the same things day in, day out, often feeling somewhat unsupported, whenever you can come together, take that opportunity. So our conference every year is that opportunity for tourism operators from, you know, all across this great province to come and to spend time 3 days with other tourism operators. I always say, like, that's one of the biggest things that happens, that synergy of all of us being together. But then you get to meet, you know, national leaders and experts in certain areas. So you get to have that knowledge brought to the table. It's very expensive to find that on your own. So, you know, in this, you know, somewhat subsidized situation, you can come to a conference and you can meet people that are doing things that you're doing at maybe a higher level, maybe they're doing it a little bit different, maybe they've got a little bit more experience. So suddenly you're able to gather that knowledge and you'll be able to take that back and maybe, you know, if you're the right kind of person, you'll share that with other people on the ground where you're coming from. So that just kind of spreads out. We're going to have a fabulous keynote speaker, and Mr. Tam. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting him many years ago in my previous life, which was more embedded in technology. So I met him at a couple of conferences and got to hang out with him. And he's a very talented, interesting individual. It's going to be great to hear.
Where's he from?
He's actually, I think, right now living in Toronto, but I'm not sure, actually, now that you say that. When I met him, he was in Toronto. He was working for Facebook in those days. And so he's gone on to do lots of other things since then. But Facebook had just opened up its Canadian office, and he was heading up the Canadian office at the time.
Wow.
And so it was a great pleasure to meet him then, and that was several years ago.
Is there a theme for what he's speaking about, or is it kind of a general?
I think it's a general thing about how customer service has changed, how AI is changing what we do. So I think he's bringing a lot of tools into the mix. And and I like that idea that, you know, there will be something for everyone in what he speaks about, you know, and so that keynote speaker, you know, sets the tone for a lot of what people take back to their communities and to their places of work. So the conference is so important because sometimes it just gets you outside of your own head.
Yeah.
Like I say that all the time. It's like, I can go to start the conference feeling a certain way about things, you know, maybe that previous week wasn't so good, maybe the year wasn't so good, who knows, right? And you get to the conference and suddenly you go from being, life's a little tough right now, to like, oh, I can't wait to get back and do this and this and this and this. And so you get, you know, pumped up, you know, not to be, you know, too cliche-ish, right? But you go home pumped up, you go home feeling confident about not just yourself, but about your business, and you feel confident about the industry that you've chosen to earn your living in. Tourism, you know, we have 2,700 plus tourism operators in this province.
Incredible
We
number.
employ over 20,000 people.
You know what? That was a question I was going to ask you. Craig Foley told me that, and I know I'm doing another show, senior show, but there's 200,000 people working in Newfoundland and Labrador. 10% of the workforce.
Exactly.
That's a huge contribution to the GDP. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, we're bringing $1.2 billion into our economy every year. You can understand we're an export industry, right? So we're bringing new dollars into this industry, into our province. And how important is that, right? We're not just recycling, although there is some of that. And we totally love our staycation visitors. COVID taught us one thing and taught us that very clearly, was that these people are important to our industry. The people who choose to come to stay with us in and around the province are important. But the people who choose to come, I always tell my staff at our orientation. So just think about this. So every person that chooses from outside of Newfoundland and Labrador to visit us this summer could have gone anywhere in the world, because we're not a cheap destination.
No.
You know, we are, as I think the tourism campaign used to say many years ago, there's no accidental tourists. It takes a lot to plan a trip here. It costs a lot of money. So when people choose to come here, they've chosen us over all of these other options. We have an ultimate responsibility to make sure that they don't ever regret that choice. It is our job now, once they land with us here, you know, that sense of place, Newfoundland and Labrador, the brand that we talk about, that brand that is, my dear friend Jill Curran will say, that culture of caring, Deborah, that we have as Newfoundland and Labradorians, the fact that we then will wrap our arms around them and say, what can we do for you? How can we help you make sure that your vacation is everything that you want it to be and that you think it should be? And some people, and they come for different kinds of reasons. Some of them come for those bucket list reasons, which is the icebergs and the whales. And that's Mother Nature. We can't always deliver on those things, but we hope that we can, because that's exciting. But people come because they're looking at their genealogy. They go like, I'm a third or fourth generation Newfoundlander that, and I may now live in California. I may live in Brazil. I may live anywhere around the world. but I want to know about where I came from, where my great-grandfather came from. What are my roots? They're coming for our arts and our culture and that experience. They're coming for the great outdoors, the hiking trails. And so there's many, many reasons why people choose to come to Newfoundland and Labrador. It's our responsibility to deliver on that. And the great news is that according to all the exit surveys, we do a very, very good job at delivering on our brand promises.
Yeah, well, it is funny, you know what? It's funny. Something came rushing back to me. I've been lucky enough in my life. I've been in the Navy, traveled around the world, a lot of exotic places, but the best vacation I ever had, Deborah, was in Kings Point. And I'll tell you why. We're waiting for our meal. I have a Sea-Doo. My kids are riding out to a grounded iceberg. We're sitting there. The iceberg is right there. And I get goosebumps telling you, I've traveled the world showing people, because I have videos of that. When I tell them, they're like, they can't even, what? You're having a meal and you're riding out to an iceberg. Yes, that's what we can do here.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
And it is. I mean, I grew up, believe it or not, I grew up in Twillingate. And I grew up, and we would swim out to some of the smaller ones, not the bigger ones, but, by May and June, we would actually, because the water actually is warmer then, because, it's all been heated up all over the summer. And we would swim out and actually climb on to some of the smaller icebergs. Now, I do not in any way suggest that.
We're not endorsing that.
Definitely not endorsing that.
The chair of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador is not endorsing that.
I'm actually almost regretting saying that. But I took it for granted. I guess that was the point I was trying to get to, was that I just thought everybody got up every spring and saw icebergs. I did not know any different.
Yeah.
I was growing up in an island off the coast of the island. Until 1973, we had to take a ferry to get off the island. So, somewhat isolated. So in my little world of Twillingate, I just believed this is the experience that everyone is having. And when I found out as I got older that this wasn't the case, and I would tell people, this is how I grew up. They just couldn't imagine it. They couldn't fathom it, like you said. And so, this is it. This is what we bring to the world.
Yeah.
Right, and it's extraordinary.
Well, you know what's funny? We're going to take it even further than that. I mean, it's funny. I told you I watched your Vision 2026 recording on YouTube, and anyone, any members who haven't seen it, it's worth it. One part that really struck me was the exit surveys. They don't talk about the scenery, but they talk about the people. And I think I saw some of the commercials that Target is doing, and I actually complimented the CEO. I can't remember her name off the top of my head now. Catherine.
Yeah.
They're getting around the story side of things.
Yes.
Now, yes, the scenery's still there, but tell us a little bit about what you think in terms of the stories. We talked about that before we hit record, but
there's so many great stories, right? I mean, people come and they have an expectation, but they meet the people. And I'll just tell you one little story about my own, about in Twillingate, I there was a couple that I met. They were visiting from the Netherlands. And they were avid hikers. So they're hiking every day. They can't get enough of the trails. And one day they get back to the hotel kind of later in the day. And so I asked them, how did they go? And they go we just cannot believe it. We were out, we were hiking this trail. And at the end of the trail, we met this gentleman, and he invited us into his house for tea. And they were like, does this happen often?
Yeah.
I said, actually, it happens more often than you would expect, right? So Newfoundlanders are very hospitable, and our local community people, especially in tourism like Kings Point, Twillingate, Gros Morne, all, whether it's Trinity, Bonavista, these places that are known as hubs of tourism within our province, the community know that these people are tourists. So they literally go out of their way to welcome them. So again, it comes back to that culture of caring.
Yeah.
That is who we are. So you're right. The exit surveys talk about the people.
Yeah.
And our people are our greatest asset and continue to be our greatest asset.
Well, I got to tell you another story coming, and I think we could riff off stories all day, but and we don't want to go too long. But I got to tell you one story. My sister lives in Nova Scotia, and a friend of hers came. We're having supper, and he was explaining to me his itinerary for tomorrow. And he said, "Yeah, we're going to get up, 9:30, 10, maybe 11, and then we got a place up in St. Anthony, so we're going to drive to St. Anthony." And I said, "Oh, you are you?" I said, "Have you actually looked at how long it takes to drive there?" "Well, not really." But he said, "I've looked at, Newfoundland on a map." This was before Google.
Yeah.
I said, it is going to be anywhere from 12 to 14 hours. That's assuming you don't stop.
Yeah.
I love explaining Newfoundland
Yes.
to people because they see it on a map and they think we're tiny. We're huge, right?
Yes, and we find this often, right? I mean, people not understanding, and yes, Google Maps has changed some of that, not understanding our geography. That I think we're the 5th largest island in the world,
Yeah.
the Newfoundland Island, and you know, I'm going to just back up there a little bit because you know, as chair of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, I had the pleasure recently of spending some time in Labrador, the big land, and it was just an amazing experience. It was only my 2nd time being there, you know, thanks to the hospitality of the people of Labrador. They were so good to me. And I got to drive down from Happy Valley Goose Bay down to St. Clair, and I stopped at Port Hope Simpson along the way. Shout out to the White's pit stop there. You know, so many great people, but even I had no idea how long that trip was going to be and how, you know, how much open space there was and how bad the cell signal was. So like, you know, the idea of being prepared. So we try to tell, you know, as operators, we try to explain to people, you must be prepared because there's, you know, we're vast open spaces with sometimes not such great cell service. But the beauty along the way is just spectacular. Yeah. Like, you know, like just that sense of openness and that you get, the sense that you get whether you're, you know, sitting on a rock on a beach somewhere, you know, along, you know, Eastport Peninsula, or you're in the big land and you're going to go snowmobiling. Like, we offer so much. Yeah. And so when we talk about what Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador does, just to kind of bring it full circle, is that we bring all these people together. And our job is to advocate on behalf of our industry, to work really, really hard to see our industry grow and thrive, as we talked about. So bringing operators together, listening. I mean, I always talk about, we first and foremost must listen to our operators. What are their biggest pains? You know, what are the things that they're concerned about? Where can we help? You know, Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, you know, has a HR program that it's been working on. HR is a big issue for many people. We're talking with government about immigration and temporary foreign workers, because that's really important to certain people in our industry. We are talking about legislation at municipal levels, you know, how do we work with Service NL? We have people that are constantly doing renovations. Access to finances, you know, access to money is really, really important, especially in our food and beverage sector. That's becoming, you know, a bit of an obstacle for us. You know, so if we're not properly funded as an industry, then, you know, then we're not able to grow at the pace that we should be growing. We have lots of ideas. We, as Newfoundland and Labradorians, we understand the value of what we bring to the tourism table. But as an industry association, our responsibility now is to open as many doors as we can. Yeah. And advocate for those doors being open at the federal level, at the provincial level, at the municipal level, you know, working across, you know, working with other associations like Music NL and Energy NL and MNL, and like, so we have a big job to do, right? You know, sometimes I find it interesting when a tourism operator will reach out to me personally and, what is it you guys do? You know, like, what is it you're doing? And I think about what I did that week, and I just think about all the touch points that myself and the board and Craig have made along the way on behalf of the operators operating within our province. And I realize that we punch so far above our weight. Like, we just do. We're used to doing much with little resources, and I think we do all that because we all love our industry. Yeah. And we're all committed to our industry. And every board member that shows up, every board meeting, and comes to the table with their best ideas, and you know, they've worked hard to read through all the many, you know, pieces of information that are attached to their board package, and you know, they're committed. And I just have to say one thing. We're volunteers. Each and every one of us on the board, by the way, are volunteers. And so we're giving up our valuable time, but we love what we do because we love our industry. You know, we work hard and reach out. Like, I'm surprised sometimes that more operators don't reach out, because we're very available. We're in your communities. We live in places all around this great province, and we're there to help. So we just want you to tell us what you need us to do, and we're going to work really, really hard to do as much of it as we possibly can. And that's our commitment, to the industry, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm proud to have been a chair of this organization for the past 2 years. I'm proud to hand it over to the next chair. I think it's an organization that will continue to grow. It will continue to work hard for the industry. And then when you talk about the conference, that's kind of the pinnacle of all of us being together. And it's kind of like that's, we used to overuse the word synergy for years and years and years. And every marketing piece that came out, you saw the word synergy. And that's kind of fallen away a little bit. But the synergy that happens when you bring all of us tourism operators together, you can't put a dollar value on it. We come together, we exchange ideas, we lift each other up, we help solve each other's problems. We're constantly doing what needs to be done so that we can be, because we're very proud of what we do,
And you should be.
And we're keeping many small communities around this province alive, and we've breathed new life into many of them. So, but we cannot ever forget our urban areas. I mean, St. John's is the gateway to our tourism. I think it's, here's where somebody will correct me, but it's either 67% or 76% of people coming into our province come through the gateway of St. John's.
Yeah.
So either way, it's a lot. And so St. John's is really, really critically important. And so that's why we work really closely with all of the destination organizations. So Destination St. John's is one of our big partners as well. So, Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, come to the conference if you have the time, hang out with us, talk to us, bring your stories as well, because you're going to be there and we want to hear your stories.
We are going to be there, and we are going to record as many conversations like this. We've been talking now about 22 minutes, and I can tell you this is really exciting for me. What I will say, so it's March 11th, 12th, and 13th at the JAG, the new JAG. We've got to mention that.
We have to, because
yes.
the state-of-art surround sound system, I cannot wait to be there. I think, the fact that we're going to be one of the first major events held in the new JAG, that's really exciting. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Well, I think, it goes to show there's a commitment. A local business person is putting a lot of money to improve the infrastructure of what we have here. So that's really important.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say this. I listen to a podcast. It's called Entree Leadership, and it's an amazing podcast about leadership and business. And the founder of that is Dave Ramsey. He introduces it by saying, you as a small business owner are heroic. And I'm not just going to throw that out there willy-nilly. This lady is volunteering her time. We're going to, at the show, we'll delve more into her business. Anchor in Twillingate,
yes,
correct?
Anchor in Twillingate, that's correct.
Deborah is a person who's heroic. I'm going to embarrass her now. Her call to you as a member of Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador, she's been through it. She's been through the ringer, up and down and around, as any entrepreneur is. I love the fact that you're donating your time. You're coming to the end of your tenure, which I know is a friend of mine in Halifax says, whenever you become the chair of a volunteer board, congratulations and condolences. I guess I want to give you the last word. Anything you'd like to say to summarize?
It's interesting because you come back to the board, and I think what I would like to say is a big heartfelt thank you to all of the people who made my time on the board special, all the things I learned along the way, all of the operators that, listened to me and spoke with me and helped lift me up, because I've learned a lot in the last 9 years as I've been on the board, and especially in the last 2 years as chair. A shout out to my fellow board members, to the staff of HNL. Thank you so much for everything you've done, and for every tourism operator that took the time to listen to me when I needed help, and to every tourism operator that stopped by and supported my business. And that's what we need to do. And I always say, most of my interviews with, even as a Newfoundland and Labradorian, even if you're not in the tourism industry, get out, explore Newfoundland and Labrador. You'll be so shocked. This province has hidden gems everywhere. You will not regret spending your hard-earned money in your own province.
Well, folks, there you have it. There's hands-on practical leadership. This is what leadership is all about. Do not be shy. We're going to have a booth at the show. Gale Force Winds will be there. We want you to tell as many stories as possible, be they directed towards people coming in, be they directed towards other members, be they directed towards people in Newfoundland and Labrador. We don't care. Let's just get the conversation going. Thank you for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to be in your company.
Same, Jerry. Pleasure.